Father Gary. So good to see you.
You too. I really appreciate you taking the time to be with us on Armed with Faith. This is a kind of like a podcast video show recorded live with people to talk about youth ministry things. We try to give youth ministers, clergy, Sunday school teachers, parents, ideas on what's going on in the world with youth ministry and how to serve the kids a little bit more. I don't want to say effectively because that makes it sound like people are doing things wrong, but just like with kind of encourage them and give them inspiration from what other people are doing as well. So you are a magnificent person that has come into my life, and I want to thank God for bringing us together. But you and I have never met outside of like maybe 30 minutes at a baptism like 4 years ago, right?
Yes, that is true. It was at Dimitri's baptism, Dimitri Rutelis, and now they're in Anaheim, California.
Right. So it's neat how you can put things together and you're like, I know this person, I know that person, this person. So you came very highly recommended from Father Chris Rutelis. He was like, if you can do anything with Ionian Village, you need to talk to Andrea Kalina and get her on your team. So we've met, we've done some work together, and we're going to be spending the summer together. So I hope that you're ready for a blessed summer at Ionian Village.
I'm so ready. It's a huge honor, and a huge honor from Father Chris Rutelis and Drew Baker and all those people that got me involved. So I'm so excited. It's going to be awesome.
So it's really cool. And Drew Baker was a guest on the show as well. So you're following in good footsteps. And so
yeah, man,
let's get started.
Andrea, don't put my episode after his.
Where are you from?
I am from Kansas City, Kansas, on the Kansas side. My church is on the Missouri side, though. So my family has been at this church for a little over 95 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you're not first generation. You're like second or third generation.
Yeah. My Yaya's parents were actually first generation. And then my papu was the only one of his siblings born in the US. So his siblings were actually born abroad. And then he was born in Kansas City, or I'm sorry, not in Kansas City, but he was born in the US.
That's really cool. That's really cool. So you have connections at Ionian Village, but you also have connections in our metropolis in San Francisco as well. So you're in Kansas City, but you have connections to San Francisco metropolis. Can you tell us how that happened as well?
Yes. I've been really fortunate to just get connected with some of the most amazing people across our whole archdiocese. And it really started actually with Camp St. Paul in New York. Drew Baker married Katie Pappas Baker from my church. And so when I was in college, Drew approached me when he was visiting one day and asked me if I wanted to serve at Camp St. Paul in New York. So that was an amazing experience. I'd done our local camp here in Kansas, and it was only about a week. And I don't think I was in the cabin, but I was still a staff member. So that was my first cabin experience or camp experience. And then I went to Camp St. Paul, and I was there for 4 weeks, did the whole, every session, and learning under Father Elias was just wonderful and amazing. And that was kind of what sparked my camp bug, I guess. And that summer there happened to be like about 4 or 5 people from the metropolis of San Francisco. So after that summer, they said, hey, why don't you come try St. Nick's next summer? And I was all in. We did Project Mexico together. We did St. Nick's. I mean, I was there for the whole summer, and that started my love of that whole metropolis and everything. So it's been great. And then I served at St. Nick's for, I should know this, 4 years. And then I was girls director 1 year. So yeah, it was just great.
That is what a great story. So Camp St. Paul is in the Archdiocesan District in New York, right? And that serves really the East Coast there in New York kids area. And then the metropolis of San Francisco camp serves the entire metropolis. I mean, there are kids from all over this metropolis, from Oregon and Washington to Arizona that come.
Yeah, in Hawaii. I mean, they were from all over. It was awesome.
So you really touched a whole bunch of lives in those summers that you were together. And before that, your camp experience was 1 week at a camp in Kansas City.
Yeah, we have a local camp in Kansas. I mean, I went as a camper, but in terms of cabin ministry. Yeah, that was really, and I was really just kind of an assistant staff at that one. So Camp St. Paul, all 4 weeks, that was my first time ever being a counselor, really.
So you must be good with kids. What do you do for a living? What are you doing every day of your life?
I am a teacher. I'm a high school math teacher. So I teach at an all-girls school here in Kansas City. And really Camp St. Paul and St. Nick's and, Ionian Village, those all affirmed my decision to be a teacher. I was actually an engineering major at the time when I was at Camp St. Paul. And once I worked with kids for the whole summer and I realized, what am I doing? This is what I love. And I love math and I love these kids. So clearly I need to be a math teacher. And that was always in the back of my mind, but Camp St. Paul really pushed that over for me so that it made it an easy decision.
That's really a great story because I love how camps kind of provide this aha moment for people, right? Like
Totally.
it was camp where, I got my calling to the priesthood as well, the St. Sophia camp here in Southern California. So so camps do that for our kids. So tell me, you've been to Ionian Village, you've been to Camp St. Paul, you've been to St. Nicholas Ranch, you've been to your own personal camps. So you've been to 4 camping programs throughout the Archdiocese. Are we missing anything? I just want to make sure because I want to know the differences between all of them and the similarities and what the benefits are of all those programs.
Yeah, absolutely.
What did you get first as a kid? What did you get out of your camp ministry from your local parish?
Oh gosh. It's funny because I try to think about this a lot because I try to think of myself as a kid and what I wanted out of camp and what I got out of camp. And I don't know if I understood what I wanted out of camp, but I know what I got out of it, which was just the feeling that you could just be unapologetically yourself completely, and people would still love you. I think in school we just get so, and ironically, as a teacher, but in school we just as students, I think we get very fixated on your grades or your friends, or there's just a lot to kind of get in the way of feeling like you're being your authentic self. And at camp there's none of that. And the best possible thing you can do is look to your counselors. And so that was what I had the experience of, is that all of my counselors were just such loving people. And so that just made me want to continue more and more. And I do have to give credit to my brother too, because everything he did, I did. So when he did Ionian Village, I did Ionian Village. When he did Crossroad, I did Crossroad. I know they don't call Crossroad a camp, but I did Crossroad also.
Yeah, it's a great program.
Yeah, it's a fantastic program. So I think that's what I got out of it, is I couldn't believe how I had never felt more myself, I guess, in my whole life. And everyone was so loving about it. And I thought, wow, I don't have to put on a facade. I don't have to be the cool girl or the funny girl or the smart one or what. I was just Andrea. And so I loved that.
So the camp in Kansas City that you went to, was it just for your parish? Was it for other parishes as well? Was it jurisdictional just for the Greek Orthodox Archdiocese? Were there other kids there? How did you get all these kids together? Like
it was a pan-Orthodox camp. So in Kansas City, there's Serbian Orthodox churches, Russian Orthodox, American, Coptic. So yeah, there's a lot of different ones, and 2 Greek churches. So it's a pan-Orthodox camp, which was so cool because then, you could sing, we had hymns in all different traditions and just a lot of different priests from different traditions. So you kind of got like, the Russian priest and the Serbian one and the Greek one. And so yeah, it was a pan-Orthodox camp in Kansas for the Kansas City pan-Orthodox youth.
That's really cool. That's really neat. And so then now we move on to Camp St. Paul, because that's your first now summer, like 4 weeks at like one place. Like you're going into there and like thinking 4 weeks of camping. For somebody who like thinks about camping, you're thinking tent and you're thinking like cooking outside on a fire, right? You're thinking like that. But that's what I thought when I went to camp when I was 11 years old. Like we were going to live in tents for a week, but then we got there, there's cabins, there's bathrooms, it's not a 4-star hotel. It's not the Sheraton, but it's certainly not the Holiday Inn either, but it's right there. Right. So how did you adapt to that? Like, what was that experience like?
It's so funny to think of just that time in my life. But I mean, I was this girl from Kansas, born and raised. I was at University of Kansas. So, it was just hilarious how Midwest I was in that New York setting. And I didn't know what that meant, but Father Elias actually called me Kansas that whole summer. Okay. He didn't even call me Andrea, which was the best. So honestly, it was when I walked into the training that day. I was at Church of Our Savior in Rye, and there was trainings, and I was just so intimidated to stand up and say anything because I thought I don't have any experience. I knew I was good with kids. I babysat a ton. I was kind of just like a I don't know. I was never afraid of people. I love people so much, and so I wasn't nervous about the camp, but I just thought I'm going to mess something up, or I'm going to struggle with the procedures and things like that. So yeah, once I got there, I love the New York mentality so much. And I know it can't be generalized that well. Like people say New Yorkers, and that's just I mean, they're so diverse and so many different types of people, but just like the to the point, and whatever we need, this is what it is, but also with so much love, like just so much love. And so I loved being around that. I loved kind of people looking at me going, Kansas, why are you here? I mean, I loved that. It's just,
That's
everyone
awesome.
was like fascinated, and they wanted to know all these questions. And do you live on a farm? Did you grow up on a horse and all this stuff? So the kids were just,
Did you?
no. Well, I grew up in the suburbs, but my dad, we call my dad a Greek cowboy sometimes. He really wants to be a cowboy. He's not, but he kind of is. We have a farm an hour away from our house. So
Great.
it would be like if someone had a lake house or a beach house. I did not grow up on a farm, but I definitely grew up around all of that, and ATVs and nature. And
Nice. Nice.
yeah.
So you made all kinds of friends in New York that summer. Drew Baker's not a New Yorker. He's from Virginia, right? So
yes, and he led our staff, so that was also really helpful.
So he brings you out, you meet all them, and then you do that, and then you get out to the West Coast. Now you talked about the New York mentality. I know the difference between the New York mentality and the West Coast mentality, but I want to hear it from a Midwest girl. So tell us what you encountered when you got to California the next summer. Now, St. Nicholas Ranch, just to be clear, St. Nicholas Ranch is in Dunlap, California, which is about 45 minutes northeast of Fresno, or east of Fresno, and it's connected to a monastery of the Life-Giving Spring. And that monastery, in the last 25 years that I've been going up to the ranch, has totally transformed. It's an amazing place. So not only at the camp do you get the summer camp, but you get the monastery experience with all those beautiful nuns and Catholicon, the big Orthodox church there that has everything like that. So you go from Camp St. Paul to the West Coast. What's your experience like?
What's my experience like? Oh gosh. I mean, and again, it was one of those where I was never nervous to work with people, but I fell in love with Camp St. Paul. I fell in love with the way Father Elias led people. I also fell in love with chanting at Camp St. Paul. I feel like I've left out so many things, but it's okay. We only have an hour. I don't know how long. But yeah, I fell in love with so many things about camp at Camp St. Paul. And so, to leave was really hard. I wanted to do both somehow, but the sessions were just the same. So yeah, I went to California, and the monastery is probably one of the biggest differences. Obviously, it's an integral part of camp. You go every Thursday, the staff goes during orientation. I mean, I did not grow up going to monasteries, so that experience was just so peaceful. I had never heard silence like that in my whole life.
So the truth, right?
Yeah, I mean, and I went to monasteries at Ionian Village, but yeah, so that was, and especially in a women's monastery, it was so amazing to hear women chanters, and just, oh my gosh. But going from New York to California, I think it was the decision making. That was the biggest thing that I thought about, was just in New York, it was, okay, here's the decision, we're going to go. And if we change it, it's going to be like this. In California, it was preparing for the camp. Obviously, people are being decisive. But when it comes to being with the staff, picking a place to eat, are we going to go see a movie during our break? It was hysterical. I mean, I felt like I was in a sitcom, because, and I always tell this story from when I actually moved to California later, not to jump ahead, but one of my friends came over, and we were talking about going to see a movie with some of her friends. And we talked about it for so long that the movie was about to start. And I told her, I said, are we going to leave for the movie? Like, isn't it at 3:30? She goes, yeah, no, I think we're going to go. And eventually I said, you guys, we're not going to the movie, are we? They're like, no, let's just stay here. And I I couldn't believe it. And so in the
That's
West
so
Coast, I felt,
California. That's so
yeah,
California. Yeah, that's so California.
on the
That's
West Coast, I
good.
felt very East Coast. And on the East Coast, I felt very Midwest. So I feel like I got these beautiful pieces of both. So yeah, just with so much love. I keep saying that throughout this, but that was the consistent, the consistency through all of it. There's so much love and just a lot of just joy. I mean, I don't know how else to describe it. People were so excited to work with kids and so excited to just do anything that they could to make this the best summer for the kids. And so yeah, but that was definitely a big difference.
So I love that, Andrea. So now look, let's kind of fast forward a little bit. You were Camp St. Paul, you got right out of college probably, or during college, St.
Mhm.
Nicholas Ranch, the Metropolis Summer Camp, San Francisco. Now then you went to Ionian Village, or you were an Ionian Village camper, then you were on staff for Ionian Village, and then now you're back with Ionian Village, and I'm thrilled to have you after all that experience, right? But let's talk about you working with kids. Like, let's start on an everyday basis at school.
Okay.
Like, how long have you been a teacher now?
Um, I started in the middle of the year, so that's why don't judge me for
It's
struggling with
okay.
my math. But I think I'm starting my 7th year, which is pretty
Okay.
crazy.
So two of those 7 years, two of those 7 years were COVID related, and we'll get to that later on because that's been a big topic on Armed
Yeah.
with Faith as well. But what are some of the struggles that you see with your girls, with because you're at an all girls school, and that's why I say girls. But what are some of the struggles that you see with them as you on a daily basis?
Yeah, I teach math. It's a subject that people love to hate. And so I really, if I try to think of one thing, it would be confidence. Just coming in and before we even start a lesson, they're saying, I don't get it. And we have a good relationship now. We're, well into the year, but we I tell them, you guys, we haven't even started. I haven't even shown you this example yet. You can't give up already. So I think that's a big part of it is not that they don't want to get it, but they're already labeling themselves kind of in a defense mechanism just to say, okay, this is too hard, I'm out. And so I think that's one of the things they struggle with the most. And I feel like my job as an educator is not only to give them false hope, like to say, oh, this, it's fine, but to just encourage them to say, you're completely capable of trying. Let's just at least try and see how your beautiful brain sees it versus mine. And so, yeah.
Very, very good. Um, Moving forward, then, how did you deal with the pandemic? Like, come March 2020, what was some of the struggles that you went through as personally and then professionally in your vocation as well?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm glad we're talking about it in the past tense.
Right?
Yeah. I got engaged to my husband. Let's see, February of 2019. So we were supposed to be married in May of 2020. So that was just difficult in and of itself. And so I was planning a wedding at that time. He was supposed to graduate med school during that time. We were moving to Kansas City for his residency program. So I was moving back home. I wasn't living at home at the time. So just so many life things rolled into one that were obviously halted, and so many people experienced that. And we just felt like it was coming from a million different directions instead of even just one or two. So yeah, I mean, I would definitely say it was the hardest time of my life. I don't think I think it's undeniable. So we delayed our wedding, and he was still able to graduate. It was virtual, which, for anyone in the medical world, I mean, that's a huge deal. And so that was really difficult, but I think we still made it special for him as a family. And so anyway, that was everything that I was going through personally. And then for school, I was in New York. So, I mean, that was where kind of the epicenter, at least for the US, started. And so I was home for spring break during March, and then I never went back, which is pretty crazy. So I was teaching virtually. And I think, just to bring it back to camp, that virtual teaching, the news says all kinds of things. Teachers want to stay virtual, teachers don't want to stay virtual, and all this stuff. I mean, I never want to be virtual ever again. This is such a beautiful virtual perk that we have. I love doing, calls like this, and the fact that you and I can work together with Annunciation Village is simply because of these calls. But in terms of teaching, it showed me the um, the necessity for connection with your kids. I mean, when I can't walk around and high five them or just like, hey, how are you doing? Or have quiet, private conversations just to say, hey, you seem down today, or oh, you did so great on your quiz. Like these little small things that you didn't think made any difference, and they made all the difference. It was
Mhm, mhm.
complete change from what it was before. So, they helped me stay positive. I felt like I had to stay positive for them. If I didn't have them, my students, I really honestly don't know if I would have gotten through it. I mean, they don't know the times that I was, sobbing about my wedding and then would get online and they would say something that made me laugh. I mean, they never know that. So yeah, it was a time.
It just seems like there's so many benefits from working with youth that I think sometimes I feel selfish, like enjoying the work that I do with youth, because I think that I get more out of it than they might get. And I think
Totally.
I kind of want to keep pouring myself into it. Like you said, you'll be sobbing, and then 30 minutes later you'll go work with the kids and they'll make you laugh and you're like,
Yeah.
yeah, right. So it's good stuff. So when did you guys end up getting married? If it was postponed for May 2020, was the wedding?
Yeah, we ended up delaying it to November 2020, which was kind of in this crazy sweet spot for Kansas. Kansas was very
Right.
different, I think, than California, but it was this where it was kind of okay to get married again, and then a week or 2 weeks after our wedding, they shut down all weddings in Kansas City.
Wow.
So, so thank God. I mean, so much to be grateful for. We had, we had a wonderful amount of people there, and definitely less than we originally thought, but had a very fairly normal, great wedding. Um, and yeah, so and there's a church nearby that was actually Antiochian, and they completely took us in, and because we weren't able to get married at our church, and that's okay. It was just such
Sure.
a
Yeah.
unique time in our whole world. So there's so many beautiful things that this church, it's Orthodox, it's Antiochian, but this church just embraced us and let us in. And there was all kinds of crazy things that happened that we thought, well, how did that even happen? I mean, especially just the timing. So November 2020 is when we got married.
Awesome. Awesome. Andrew, you said something very poignant early on about being yourself at Camp St. Paul and being yourself growing up at your summer camp. And I think that it's a huge theme at all summer camps. And
Mhm.
that's authentic self and and you used a great word, unapologetically yourself, right?
Right.
Like this is who I am and I'm not sorry about it. This is, accept me or don't accept me, right?
Right.
And at school, it's a little bit different because we're we're confined by time at school, right? Like
Hmm.
from 8:30 to 3:30 or whatever,
Yeah.
and then you get to go home and then you compartmentalize your life. This is Gary at Burbank High School. This is Gary at Greek dance practice. This is Gary at
Yes.
soccer practice, right? But at camp, you're just Gary. You're just Andrea, right? And
Mhm.
that's who you are. And I think that that's a great benefit of dealing with camping ministries and doing that. How do you interact with the kids to get them to learn to like, and I know that the term recently is drop the cool card, right? Like
Mhm.
let it go, let the ego go, right? But it's really like kind of just like opening yourself up and letting like the Holy Spirit in to bring out your authentic self. Because as a priest, and it's much different for kids to talk to me than it is to you, but a lot of kids tell me that they don't want to go home after the camping program because this is where they feel the most safe. Like, not that their
Mhm.
homes are not safe, but
Sure.
like their environment, the camp gives them the opportunity to just like be free of the judgment of the world, right? So how do you get the kids to like get to that place? How do you get them to drop the cool card? How do you get them to like, right away, especially in a week-long program, you don't have very much time to do it. At Ionian Village, we have, 19 days, so there's a little bit of time. But
Right.
there's differences there too. You have the kids wanting to be cool on the plane all the way through, it takes like, 15, 20 hours to get to Ionian Village from wherever we are.
Right.
But what are some ways that you've seen the cool card get dropped?
It's a fantastic question. Um, I model my camping experience, or I model the way I, lead kids, the way I was led when I was a camper, and that's the staff. It completely starts with the staff, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts in my mind. I mean, if the staff is trying to be cool, or they're trying to impress people, or they're, you know, I don't know, judging people, or like making, you know, maybe off-putting jokes about people or something, or talking about people, then that's how the campers are, because in their mind, that's the language. It's like, okay, we have now arrived at cool camp, and you have to make sure that you're the cool kid. And if you're not, you're, you know, all those
Right.
things.
Right.
Whereas if you flip that, you know, if the staff is treating each other with compassion, if they're you know, just making jokes with each other, having a ton of fun. If they're having fun, the kids have fun. And that's how it was for me. I mean, when I saw when I saw my staff members in 2009, when Drew Baker was there, and I could list a million people, but all the people that were there, that's what they did. They had the time of their lives, but then also when they were in church, you could tell it was important to them. When they talked about the church, you could tell that they really truly did believe in it, and they thought it was this beautiful, um, you know, oasis in our life and in our world. And it was just genuine. You could tell. I mean, I always say kids are the best lie detectors. I mean, if I'm teaching math and I pretend I don't know, they know I don't know. And so that's the best thing about kids, is that you cannot be inauthentic around them, because they will know. They'll say, I can tell you don't like them, or I can tell you don't like her, or something like that. So I mean, I completely agree with you, Father, when you say you almost feel selfish working with them sometimes, because I think the only reason I am anyone that I am today, and that all those, you know, things I listed off, I did this and I got to do this camp, it's all because of them. I mean, they held me to that standard. Those kids were saying, you're my role model, so you better you better live up to that. And I'm still not living up to that every day. I mean, but that's what I'm striving to do, is to remember, oh my gosh, so and so thought of me like this, and so of me in a good way. It's almost like a positive peer pressure. But yeah, I think it always starts with the staff.
You know, and I love that, because I've seen kids at summer camp kind of open up and like be this amazing, smiling, laughing, like blossomed person, where I would see them at home kind of reserved and shy in the back of the pews, right? I'm
Yeah.
like, is that the same, you know, is that the same kid? And to be, I don't mean to embarrass my son. I don't know if he's going to hear this, or somebody's going to tell him that I said this, but it happened at Ionian Village in 2016, when I was invited to be, you know, part of the staff as a clergyman.
Yeah.
And there was yelling going on under the trapezaria, under the cafeteria where the kids were eating. There was just all this yelling and screaming and cheering and everything. And I walked over there and I looked and I was like, what is going on? And I looked, and standing on the table with his arms like just up in a V was my son, who sits and reads all day long. Like, he'll sit with a book all day. And like, where did that come from? And on the plane on the way home, I'm like, did you have a good time? Because I make a rule for myself that when I get to camp programs with my kids, I tell them, I'm Father Gary now. I'm not your dad, because it's not fair.
Yeah.
Nobody else has their dad here. So I'm Father Gary to you. And it's cool that the other kids don't realize that those are my kids. And so my kids get to get in there. But we get on the plane and we're on the way back. And I was like, and he was like, Dad, I don't know. It just made me feel like I could just let person that's inside me just come out, right?
Yeah.
I really like, that's when authentic self started coming up with kids and youth programs and everything. And like giving them the opportunity to express themselves that way is awesome at camp. But a lot of camp directors and I talk about how to bring the camp home, right? Like how to bring it back here. Like at Saint Sophia Camp, we call taking it down the hill, because we're up in the mountains. When you go when you go down the hill, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? At Indian Village, you know, last year at IV Next, which was my first program that I did, was 12 days. We talked about when you get across the pond, when you go back, you know, to the other side of the pond, what are you going to do? Are you going to change it, right? And we talk about that. And so I've seen some transformations in people that are amazing. What are some transformations that you've seen in people from the camping programs? If you can just think back to maybe one or two kids that you met at the beginning of the week or the beginning of the session, and then by the end of the session, it was like, wow, this person came a long way. And I'll give you some examples. Examples are like, one night at St. Sophia Camp, I was talking to this kid. It was Sunday night. The kids got there on a Sunday that year. Sunday night, we're sitting there. 9-year-old kid was upset that he had to give up his phone, like just livid, you know, that I've never been without my phone. This 9-year-old kid, right? And he ended up started crying and like, I want to go home. And he was like, ultimately he wanted to go home to play his video game system. He didn't want to be in the woods without any technology. And we took
Mhm.
his phone. So he was like, I need to get out of here. I need to get out of here. Come Saturday night, before we leave, 30 minutes before the big last dance, he's crying to me again that he does not want to go home. Is there any
Right.
way I can stay another week? Like, I need another. I was like, well, what about your phone? And what about this and that? And it was interesting because this is going to sound hypocritical, but I had my phone. So I was recording the conversation with him that Sunday night when he was complaining, because
Yeah.
I knew from experience that come another time he was going to tell me that it was different. So then I showed him that video, and then he started laughing, and he was like, "Well, can you videotape me now being happy?" And I videotaped him being happy, and it was just a very cute video, right? Like the kid was
Yeah.
like 9 years old, and that was like 12 years ago. So he's like 21 now, and I shared that story with him. But you see this transformation, right? You see this
Right.
transformation. Have you seen stuff like that? Have you?
Oh
By the way,
yeah.
I deleted that video and it's not anywhere to be seen. So no, no
Okay.
worries to anybody.
Yeah, no, I mean, all the time. And I think what's important to note here too is that no one's trying to make a kid anything that they're not, you know. I mean, I have kids come in and they're very reserved, and that's amazing. I don't want them to, you know, if it's something, you know, like you said, your son was on the table, and I love that so much. But not every kid's going to do that. Like some of them will stay reserved throughout the whole time, but then I've had kids you know, kind of not say much the entire session. And I'm just thinking, oh gosh, I hope they enjoyed it. I hope they had a good time. Like it's okay if, you know, they're not, because I'm painfully extroverted. I know everyone's not always like that. And so I just love at the end when, you know, you might ask that kid to like, do you want to share anything that you enjoyed this week? And they'll just say this like beautiful, profound thing about how they were observing people and they were watching. And then I'm thinking, oh my gosh, they were watching us as staff the whole time. They were watching these kids the whole time. So yeah, I mean, things where you're thinking this kid had a terrible time, and then it turns out like no, the Holy Spirit's working in them. It's not. It has nothing to do with anything that, you know, I say or do. But if we're living our lives authentically and we're inviting the Holy Spirit in, and you're, you know, being prayerful that time, like yeah, that's what's going to happen. So yeah, so many stories like that, which I just love so much, and especially the kids who are sobbing. They don't want their phones. They don't want to give up their phones. They you know, they want to be at basketball camp or whatever it is. And then all of a sudden, and maybe they've never talked about their faith before, and they think it's going to be like just kind of a, like, I don't know, a 12-day boot camp where you're just talking about
Bible,
Jesus
right?
for
Yeah.
10 days. And that's not how it is. You're living it, you know, you're also talking about it, but you're living it. So yeah, there's been so many amazing stories like that.
I love that. And I'm hearing from kids now after the pandemic and like some kind of like piece together camping programs, you know, like masks and like, you know, whatever from last summer. I'm hearing kids now looking forward to this summer that they're literally saying to me, I can't wait to give up my phone. I can't wait to go and be away
Yes.
from my phone, right?
Yep, exactly. I mean, and that's it's in a way, I think we do that as adults too. Like when you were saying, how do we bring that back? How do we bring this feeling back? I mean, we as adults are constantly trying to be our authentic selves all the time, but it's so difficult. You have to be this in front of your boss, or you have to be this in front of your, you know, just any kind of superior or friends. Like I want to have this person as my friend. And so we do it as adults. And I think um I'm going to butcher this quote, but St. Paisios says something about, I really think it's St. Paisios. He says something about if a person can experience, I don't know if it's holiness or if it's, if they can experience something in church, like just a beautiful moment in church, they'll cling to that their whole entire life. And that's how I feel about camp. It's like, if you can feel that once during camp, you could feel that your authentic self just once, you're going to be striving to get back to that your whole life. And that's beautiful. It's not going to happen every day and every second, but I just think that's what we can give our kids, is to say, remember this feeling. Like, remember what it feels like when you drop your cool card, when you you know, are just genuine to people, you're honest, you know, then this is the fruit that comes out of that. And so I think if we can give that to kids, that is life changing for them.
I love that, Andrea. I really do, because it's exactly it, right? Like when you have that, when you're walking and you smell something, you're like, oh my God, that smells like camp, right? Or you hear something and somebody goes, oh my God, that reminds me of camp, right?
Right.
And so it's the best, and you have that spot in your heart. And in Saint Sophia Camp here in Southern California is very special to me, because that's where I met my wife,
Oh
and
yeah.
she really by chance we weren't supposed to be there at the same time. That's a whole other story. But I love the programs for that reason as well, that you get to meet other people and you get the opportunity to meet them in ways that you would never like meet somebody at a, you know,
Yes.
at a bar or at a
Yeah.
you know, whatever, right? So when the buses pull up at camp, right? Like it's different at Union Village because we're at the airport waiting for them and they get off the plane and then we're loading them on the plane and they're like and getting on the plane, right? And but at camp when we get there, when we arrive and the buses come and the kids get off, what is going on in your heart and your head as a staff member, as a member of the cabin staff, as a counselor? What are you thinking? Like what's going through your head, like pre-game stretching, pre-game warm-up? Like what are you hoping for to happen? Like what is it that you want to see?
Yeah. Oof. My pre-game warm up. I think I'm trying to not, this is going to sound weird. I don't mean lower my expectations, but everyone is going to kind of get to that point that we're talking about at camp very differently. Some it's going to be immediate, some it's going to take the whole 3 weeks, and some it'll be somewhere in between. So I really am, I don't know if it sounds cliche, but I really am just praying, just let the Holy Spirit be here, like help me to be the best vessel of God's love that I can, because I don't know how to do that. I'm trying all the time to just not think I have all the answers. This is exactly how we do it. I just think that doesn't leave any room for, you know, mistakes or anything. So yeah, that, I think in the beginning, it's just to say like, hey, we're so excited you're here. That is just my initial part, is just, I can't wait to get to know you. I can't wait to, show you all these beautiful things, but just to make them kind of get their bearings. Especially in Greece, like to show you you're safe, you're fed, you're going to sleep kind of, and not really, and just kind of those initial things. But just to be genuinely interested in who is there, and just to say, tell me about yourself. I can't wait to hear, where are you from? This is so exciting. It's so exciting to know you. There's no better way, or there's no better feeling than when someone is excited to know you. You're going, me? Why me?
Yeah.
It's like you could have kids who maybe, and I'm a teacher, so not to put teachers under the bus, and maybe a teacher hasn't spent time with them, or maybe they've just felt isolated at their school. Just to feel like someone is excited to know them, I think is a huge deal to kids. So that's kind of my pregame mentality, if that makes sense.
I love that. I love that, because you said you're going to get to know them. You're going to get to experience things with them that they haven't experienced before, right?
Yeah.
I met a girl at the young adult conference earlier this year who told me that her very best friend in the whole wide world is from Ionian Village. And I said,
Yeah.
oh, you guys were in the same cabin? She goes, no, listen to this. This is even better, right? She goes, no. She said, I got on the plane and I sat in my seat, and then she sat next to me and we talked for 11 hours. And then we got to Ionian Village and we just kept checking. We weren't in the same cabin. We just kept checking in with each other and talking at the pool, talking on trips, whatever.
Yeah.
And she said, and then when we went home, we made it so we could sit with each other on the plane again. And she said, she's my very best friend. Like, I know that I can call her and get whatever advice I need. Like, she'll be honest with me. And she used the word authentic. And that's where like this all comes in, right?
Yes.
So Father Tom Paris of blessed memory was my bros domino in Oakland at my very first parish. And he told me, I love reading books on youth ministry, like Dean Bujamra and all these different people that write books on youth ministry, right? Like Kumbaya, when Kumbaya is not enough, right? Books like that, right?
Yes.
And he came in and he saw these books and he's like, throw all those books away. And I said, okay. He goes, all you need to know is this: when the parents give you the kids, you need to return the kids in better shape than you got them. And I was like, okay. I said, but they're going to come back with skinned knees and skinned elbows, because we do things at camp that, they might get a scratch here, a scratch there. We're in the wilderness. He goes, it's not what I mean. You're going to transform their hearts. You got to make God touch them, right? And so like all these years later, and God, that was 21 years ago, right?
So gorgeous mentality. Yeah.
And so everything that I go into with youth ministry is like, I see these kids as like a blank canvas. And like, when I turn them back to their parents, when they go down the hill, when they go across the pond, when they go back home, how different are they going to be, right? And what's the best thing about it is that I'm different as well. Right. And so let's talk now about how this summer and this program for Ionian Village, like, why are you so excited? And I'm gonna paint that. I hope that you don't change your mind about going when I paint this picture real quick, okay? We're
Okay.
coming up on the end of the show, but I'm going to paint this picture. And
Okay.
you're telling me that you're excited. You're smiling really big right now because thinking about the summer, okay? Why are you so excited about serving at Ionian Village, giving up almost 12 weeks of your life, maybe more? I haven't counted exactly, right? But 12 weeks of your life to be in a foreign country, mostly away from your husband, right? You're not going to be with your husband during that time.
Yeah.
With a bunch of strangers, with a guy you've never really worked with before, right? At a place that you like and you know and you're comfortable with, right? But you're so excited about it. You don't know the kids that are coming. You don't really know the other people that are on staff that we've selected, but you are so excited to be there, right? And you're not going to sleep.
Mhm.
You're not going to eat what you want. You're not going to go where you want. You're not going to do what you want when you want to do it, right? You're going to be on a schedule for that time. And there's going to be times where you're going to be like, I just need 5 minutes. I'm like, well, not now, right? And so we know that, right? But you're
Yeah.
so excited about it. Like, this is your break as a teacher, like just to sit and do nothing. Like, you could watch Oprah or Ellen all day long, right? But you're going to go give yourself to this program, to these kids, and you're excited about it. Why?
Gosh, I was getting emotional during it. I mean, not in a negative way, don't worry. How do you even encompass that in one? This doesn't imply that he's not here, but Christ is there. He's at camp. That's like what just kind of came to my mind as you were saying all these. And he's absolutely in our homes and he's absolutely in, but just the presence of God at that place is so apparent to me. It's almost like, I don't know, like you're just staring at it right in front of you. I mean, so it's like a no-brainer. It's going, how could I not be there? How could I deny that opportunity to be there? And you're right. I mean, it was a big decision, and I have to applaud my husband on this podcast. It took too long to do that, but he's been so beyond supportive, and he's in one of the hardest parts of his medical career right now in residency, and so he's been beyond supportive of me, going and serving our youth. But the opportunity to help revitalize our church this summer is all I want to do. It's like I can't stop thinking about it. I mean, because with this pandemic and everything that's gone on, and so many parishes have seen less and less people, and even more so than before. I mean, before people were saying like, oh, the church is, there's less people in our church, and I don't really like listening to those statistics, and maybe that's naive and people can call it ignorant, but I don't like focusing on that because I want to invest in the people who are there. But even more so now, people who are just either scared to go back to church or just got used to not going to church, whatever it is. I mean, the opportunity to go this summer and just blow the lid off the place, like ready for, and not in a like party way or something, but just, yeah, I mean, just to go there and to remember for myself. I mean, selfishly, like to remember for myself and to remember for all these kids why we go to church. Why do we go to church? Why do we care about this so much? It would be so much easier to sleep in on Sundays and to not worry about these things, and not like, and keep eating meat during Lent. Like, why are we doing this? So yeah, just that opportunity itself, I can't imagine doing anything else. I really can't.
I love hearing you say that because it's exactly the way that I feel as well. Like, so you can get on these platforms, you can talk about all these sessions, and we're going to do this, we're going to do that, but when it comes down to it, it's about establishing a relationship with Christ, right? And everything that we do, and like realizing that. And when the kids get it, when that twinkle in their eye goes off and they get that aha moment that, wow, that's what it means to have faith, that is worth every minute that I didn't sleep,
Yes.
with every meal that I missed, right? And so I think that you as a youth worker, I think Father Elias as a youth worker, I think that all these people that we mentioned, Johanna at St. Nicholas Ranch, all these people that are youth workers, Drew Baker that we mentioned, Father Chris Ratellis, would all say the same thing, that there's no meal, there's no shut-eye, there's no resting, there's no TV show that they would rather do to make up for the time that they lost the sleep, lost the rest, lost
Right.
the opportunity to eat something, right? So I'm thrilled that we have young adults like you, we have young priests like we mentioned there, that are carrying the torch and that realize how important this coming summer is for all of our kids. Can I
Right.
ask you one last thing? We're
Yeah.
coming up on the end of the hour here, so we're going to
Absolutely.
finish up. Noelle's going to take this back and she's going to give some business and stuff at the end. So I'm going to say my goodbyes as soon as you finish answering this question, and then whatever else you want to say as well.
Okay.
What would you say if you're looking at all the kids that are going to be going to summer camp programs this summer, whether it's Camp St. Paul, Fanari in Chicago, St. Stephen's, Camp Good Shepherd, St. Nicholas Ranch, St. Sophia Camp, Ionian Village, all these kids that are preparing to go somewhere for the summer, you get to address all of them right now. What are you going to say to them?
Buckle up.
That's great. We can make one big t-shirt for every program that just says buckle up.
Buckle up.
Awesome.
Yeah, just they're so ready. We're so ready. Like just to take literally the last 2 years and beyond, and that's a lot. I know I say that that's a heavy statement, everything that people have gone through. So it's not to minimize it, but to say, get ready for the joy, get ready for the prayer. Chanting with kids, like with 100 kids around you, is probably one of the most magical things I've ever heard in my life. And I don't know if people agree with me, but that's one of my favorite places to be. It's just, gives me chills thinking about it. So buckle up.
You just, when you said just before you said it gives me chills, I got chills. And so it's awesome that you said that. So listen, I just have to tell you, you've been a wonderful guest, and I can't wait to spend the summer with you and to experience the things that we're going to experience together at Ionian Village together. Thank you for being authentic. Thank you for sharing yourself and your time with the youth that you encounter. Thank you for sharing time on right now with us, this hour that you've given us for the show. And may God bless everything that you encounter and you strive to do to glorify his name. May God multiply your efforts and all that you do. And may you inspire other people to become Andrea Kalinas as well, so that we can have many more of them out there. So God bless you.
Thank you so much. I
Thank you for being
really
here.
appreciate your time. And I didn't even thank you during this whole thing. You're the whole
There's no
reason.
thanking me. There's no thanking me. You're
the whole reason I get to go back to this place. For trusting me, and we're in it together. I'm so excited. I'm so excited to be led by you. So thank you. And thanks for letting me be on your podcast. It's my first one.
Awesome. I appreciate that. Be well. Give my love to Andrew and your family. Enjoy the rest of your day, your afternoon. And know that I'm excited to be with you at Ionian Village. And I'm excited for all the kids that are going to any camping program this summer, because they need to get ready and, I guess, buckle up.
Buckle up. Thank you, Father. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.